Okay.
Cheers.
All right, so here we are. The topics today will be RRR, my thoughts on Encanto 2, which I'm pretty sure they're rushing into production now. Let's hope it's better than Frozen 2. And Child's Play crossover with Pink Panther. All right, so do I really need a thing or
no?
No. Okay. You want some? It's not a flask. It's I think they haven't had any in a flask. It's like
No, thank you.
no, it's a cologne. That's what I splashed myself with to smell better because I haven't. Well, I just got off work, so I'm not.
I understand. Yeah.
And I found this. It's
I'm
something
the
with my life and my jobs. I just find like the most random stuff, and I found this just out on the grassy curb.
That's great.
Someone just found this. I'm like, it's a nice bottle.
I do like bottles.
Me too. I just bought a whole collection of really old liquor bottles, little shot glasses.
Yeah.
I think with the original liquor still in them, I'm not sure, but they are taped down, so I don't know.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just bought this big box full of it for like $5.
Yeah.
I'll show you a picture of that later.
That's fine.
I'm not gonna drink them. Calm down, people.
You know. I mean, if you find out what's in them, you could drink them.
Yeah.
And like, if the only thing you're worried about is like infection or something,
I doubt it because it's alcoholic-based beverages.
Then shouldn't be a problem. Although there is like, what if there's lead or something?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna drink something from the turn of the century. I remember that snow cone that guy was talking about. That had hay and for hay. I don't know how they processed it, but it says it was made of hay and cotton, and for the strawberry in the fake ice cream was crushed fleas.
Oh yeah, the cochineals. Yeah, I have a little thing of those guys that I can grind up to make red coloring. Just thought that's fun. Go ahead.
Anyway, so RRR. Now I'm going to tell him basically everything. I'm going to spoil the hell out of this thing, but still, does not do it justice. This movie is just, it's an Indian film.
Yeah.
And someone in production said every shot of this will be big and epic, and they did. Where there's like everything is big and epic. And these guys are like Herculean, not like they're like walking Hercules, but they're like more like homegrown versions. So they're more like John Henry, I guess.
Sure.
John Henry strong, and also maybe a bit magic, like a dash of kind of magic, because it's like they go through some. Like they only show you only so much in that trailer, even though they throw a lot at you. But trust me, when you have to sit there through they go through a lot of stuff. A lot of stuff. So you see them, and it's like, okay, and now we're going into a musical where someone's being whipped with thorn whips and is not really feeling it? I guess. I don't know. He's doing the musical. So this has Dianetic and non-Dianetic songs in it, apparently. And apparently it gives you magical powers to somehow survive being ripped apart with the thorn whip. But the songs again are fantastic. Now they were like when West Side Story, where it's like the story is boring as all hell because it's the standard, Romeo and Juliet thing. Even though it's basically Romeo and Juliet spliced with Lord of the Flies. Basically, is what West Side Story is. Because you get the concept, no parental supervision, so they basically go to tribalism. It's just ridiculous. But anyway, yeah. So the songs are just. The story's epic, so that pulls you along. So it's never like a lull, but you do get a little lost. It's like, okay, what's this? What's this? Where are we now?
Yep.
Is this the future? Is this 8 years later? It goes, no, this was 20 years in the past. It's like, oh, okay. This is the character's backstory. Thank you for not bothering to put up a title card saying, whatever year it was, or 20 years ago, and it just slaps in there. It's like, okay, I guess we're doing that now. So there's these two characters. I forget their names, but they're Indian. It takes place in India, and their setups are rather nice. They come in. One is in the Indian Army, and he's there trying to be the best, soldier he can be to climb up the ranks, and they're just like not noticing him at all. He goes to this whole thing, says, "Bring me that man doing a ride. Bring me that man, ride. Bring him before me." It's like, how are they going to do that? He just goes over like it's like something out of a Frankenstein monster. Just goes over there, just starts tearing through the crowd where people are just like on him. He's just like, just flaying them left and right. Goes through this whole thing, grabs the guy, brings him over, and throws him in front of the guy. It's like, okay, well, I was not expecting that. And the guy says, this crowd is scaring me. He goes, yes, but he scares me more. And there are good one-liners. Nothing in here feels forced or cheesy or played up for a laugh, thank God. You know, none of that, like, new Spider-Man stuff. It's like, no, this is actually like the OG Spider-Mans. That's why they made the film better. Because they were actually there for, you know, the actual reasons and not for a cheap joke.
There were a lot of cheap jokes in the old Spider-Man movies, though.
Yeah, but those were not as prevalent as the other ones were, because it's just like, we're gonna be here all day. All right, yeah. So it has good cinematography. Again, so the guy who's in the Resistance and the guy who's in the Army, they meet and they help a kid. You can see in the trailer, like, they help a kid get off of that little boat thing that he's in, which some people believe is the basis for Noah's Ark. They build a big one and they said, oh yeah, it totally works.
Who said that?
Some thing on a documentary I saw once where they were saying like what Noah's Ark actually was, and they said, oh, it's this round raft thing with a roof on it.
Oh, yeah. Got it. I understand. Not that the thing that they were doing in the movie was based on a story that inspired Noah's Ark.
No, they're saying that's the type of boat.
Built that structure.
Yeah, that's the type of boat. So that was like maybe was the ancient thing for it, inspired, I guess. Anyway, so you could tell like these guys were kind of sort of magical. They can do these like superhuman feats, and it's like, oh, they're ripped, so I could kind of believe that, you know. And then the guy gets this whole back and forth where they're basically kind of mousing each other without realizing that the guy they're looking for is kind of right next to him. He's befriending him and calling him brother. And he goes through this whole thing where the one guy's trying to save the little girl who was kidnapped.
Got it.
And the other guy, his whole thing was to start a revolution to save everyone. That was his whole deal. But he'll go through and do whatever he needs to achieve that goal, including stabbing his friend in the back. And going through it's a whole arc thing. But I say just look for it for yourself. I guess that's the best way I can describe it, is just look for yourself. And there are really damn good songs. They do put up subtitles. There is like cultural racism is heavily prevalent throughout this whole thing. That's basically what the whole thing's about racism. The East India Trading Company comes in.
Yeah.
And they said, it's like, well, this guy's causing us problems. We're going to shoot them. It's like, what are you doing? Don't shoot them. Now, you know how long it took for that bullet to get here? How much it cost for that one bullet to get here? He says, that's worth 1 pound shilling silver or whatever. And he says, it's not even worth it. Just bash their heads in. It's cheaper that way. It's like you have a whole munition store in there, and apparently you can't just use one bullet to solve your problem. You got to be an asshole about it and smack them over there with a rim with a tree branch. I'm like, God, these are assholes. So yeah, watch that, and trust me, you will not. But be sure. But remember, they play it loud. The theater I was in, they play it loud. So you're like, okay, it's been like an hour's worth of like loud. Okay, I get it. It's like, yes, it goes on. Not like in Pokemon where they have to turn up the volume at certain parts so that one part's loud, but the rest of the movie's like a lot quieter, or however way it is. No, this is loud all the way through. Okay, so next is Encanto 2. Okay, what are your thoughts on Encanto and Encanto 2?
Well, I have no thoughts about Encanto 2. I liked Encanto a lot. It was sort of mild, right? It wasn't super intense.
Well, there was no clear villain, is what it was.
Well, there doesn't need to be a villain for you to have a lot of intensity. And yes, there was a villain. There was a clear villain. But we sympathize with the villain, and that's Grandma.
Yeah.
Now, when I say villain, I don't mean she's evil. I mean she's the perpetrator of the harm in the story that has to be overcome. But also everyone has to overcome themselves, right? And it's not like anyone doesn't understand where Grandma's coming from.
They just never realized that moment never left her, or she never left that moment, or something like that.
Sure. Well, and
it's been dogging her all this time. It's like, oh, so it's been like right there with with you this whole time. That's the basis for all this was that fear. It's like, if we screw up, if something happens, we're gonna lose it all, and then we'll be gone again, and we'll have to start all over. And it's like, okay, Grant, it's okay, it's all right, we're fine, we're fine.
But it's very similar to like, people who rebuilt after a war, who didn't get to go back to former glory but got to just rebuild. People who like it's a very common immigrant story, right? Is I worked hard, I built this. If we show any weakness, the wolves will come and get us
Again.
And even though like the whole family is actually settled in, like that's not true anymore.
But that fear
is there, and it's not. The thing is that Grandma knows things that no one else in the family knows. Grandma knows what it's like to be hunted. Grandma knows what it's like to have enemies.
But going down the with us a little bit.
But she didn't get a chance to learn what it was like for things to be not perfect but okay.
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, I think Encanto's really interesting. I think it's really interesting who gets it and who doesn't. I think that's super fascinating. I think it's funny how many people kind of compare it to the Day of the Dead one. Coco.
Oh, Book of Life.
No, Coco.
Coco. Sorry,
yeah, so
Coco.
No, Book of Life is kind of a different thing, right?
Yeah, sorry. I just the first one that comes to mind. People say Day of the Dead. It's like
because it's the most actually Day of the Dead one. Yeah.
Yes.
But Coco is similar in that there's this. Well, it's similar in one way. Pardon me.
About family oppression.
Yeah, it's about like this kind of generational trauma concept, but they're actually different generational traumas. One is the lies that you were told and having to live with them, and the other one is actually the generational trauma you get when things went too well after going badly, and which is why I think a lot of viewers didn't get Encanto. So, Encanto is less dramatic than Coco.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of people felt it was even less dramatic than it really was, because they didn't grasp that flavor of generational trauma and how realistic it was. I would say it's honestly more realistic than Coco, not the magic, but I mean, how many people can trace what's wrong with their family back to a single evil singer?
Yeah.
Right? Whereas a lot of us can trace it back to someone who escaped a worse situation and did really well and can't let go.
So my thoughts on if they're going to do a sequel, and they did show it. They showed that mountain, splitting open. So I'm like, well, there's your pass. I mean, they went to the stream, so clearly other people can get in. Yeah. And I was thinking, well, what if we start off the sequel with the other angle from the other side of the stream that we see. The four horsemen of the apocalypse, literally the four horsemen right there, saying, what would their view if they or one of them survived? Like, what would be his view on that situation? He goes, oh, we're tracking down these. I'm not sure what the conflict was, but
yeah, they don't tell you, and I think that's great.
But I think his thing would be like, oh, these people were like agitators or something like that, like something evil, or they're just upstarts somehow. Yeah. And somehow we're about ready to capture them, and then this witch, she managed to conjure up some magical powers, and then, so then I've been trying to find them ever since, and I'm telling my son, and in his generation, like, we got to find these people, beware, beware that little peaceful valley, the dark mountains, like, we got to beware of that. And then the one kid, the grandson, he clubs in there, finds them, and it's like, these are very nice people. I wonder who are they? I says, my family, the Madrigal. Yeah. Of course, they're going to stall on that as long as humanly possible. It's like, oh yeah, my family. Period. I'm like, your family, the Madrigal, because everyone keeps saying the family Madrigal. You're not going to, because they do that. I've seen that in anime where it's like, welcome to the village. Period. Oh, the village that is your last name. Yeah. Dr. Stone. I was like.
Saying just the village is actually a very real thing that a lot of people would do, but we 100% know that everyone calls them the family Madrigal constantly in that movie, in part because it's like it's an authority, right? It's their standard.
And so status. I thought it'd be kind of cool that the kid isn't really hard on like taking on he also feels pressured like to follow the family business, but he's kind of thinking for himself. It's like, okay, this is what you said, and I kind of believe you, but the evidence of the world around me says different there, Grandpa. Sure. So yes, I am being pressured to follow in the family traditions or the family business or the way of thinking or politics. It's like I kind of want to think for myself for like 5 minutes. Can I do that? So he's kind of he will like be friends like Mirabelle, I think would be the thing.
Sure.
And I think that would be really good storytelling.
Yeah, or the kid who talks to animals and Mirabelle is sort of their guide. right? She's the one that knows what's going on. So no, that would be cool, and it's interesting. So I think given, sort of like what's just like recent events. Here's another way it could go. Is that the horsemen, the power they represent, has mismanaged the lands so tremendously that they have fallen to poverty, and when those mountains open, people start pouring in to the village where they have prosperity and peace.
Oh, right.
And then, like, everyone's got to figure out, whoa, what does that mean? Everything's been like a perfect structure.
Because it was a microcosm.
It was a microcosm. We all knew each other. We all knew what we stood for. Now these people are showing up and they need help, but also we don't know what they're about. And also when do the horsemen show up? Right?
Yeah.
And it's a question of do we seal the mountains if we can?
Yeah, do we get Louisa to do that?
Yeah, or like these people brought in dynamite.
Oh.
Do we dynamite the mountains? Right? And so that would be a very different story. It would be a less personal, more collective story. And I understand that's not really what Encanto is. Encanto is about the collective, but it's very much about a main character navigating that. So it would be a very different kind of story if it was that collectivist. But yeah, the idea of the children of the horsemen interacting that'd just be cool.
Was it like in the documentary movie, being the Ricardos, Lucy, was feeling, like, oh, communism is not a bad thing.
Yeah.
My uncle was it was the uncle or the grandfather?
I don't remember.
I can't remember. But anyway, her relative was a communist. It's like, wow, we went to rallies. It all seemed like a good idea.
Yeah.
Like, again, concepts, yeah, sure, it's a good idea.
Yeah.
It's like, sure, it was on paper, it looks good, but in practice, again, it's a different thing.
Sure. Well, and also, like, communism is kind of just on paper, right? You don't have to be a Soviet or like the Chinese party, the I forget what it's called, but the main PRC party, and also you can
DNC.
No, but you can believe in communism without being any of those things.
Yeah, but try to convince other people about that.
No, exactly. Especially at a time when, like,
the Red Menace.
Everyone was worried about the Soviets.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and then Ricky's there saying, I was driven from my home at night. We were running down like dogs. It's like, that wasn't fun. But then that's the thing. It's like the dichotomy is like, what side were you on? Like,
yeah.
And your viewpoint's on that. It's like, oh, it's a nice little thing, rally. It's like, this wouldn't be a nice idea to apply that to the world. Those people are like, I'm running for my life. I'm being chased from my childhood home. It's like, what the fuck do I do come morning if I survive the night? What do I do? You know? So, again, yeah, it's good. Makes for good storytelling. So a good fanfic idea for you writers out there, for a crossover between Child's Play and the Pink Panther. I think that'd be hilarious, where they have these murders.
Movies, not cartoon. Movies, not cartoon.
Yeah, movies.
Yeah. No, for the fanfic.
Oh, for the fanfic, yes. Yeah. Clearly the movie Clouseau. Clearly Clouseau.
Yeah, many of you will have seen the cartoon and never even heard of the movies, actually. Yeah. But yeah.
So, I thought that would just be funny that these murders going on, and Clouseau would be there in the house with the doll, and he's there with all the family and everything. And it's like, and the doll would like would try also at some point try to kill him, and he just like the plot armors would just keep each other at a neutral balance. Even to the point where he just comes out with the knife. He says, "Where's that a Westhoff?" It's like, I guess it is a Westhoff. It's like, I don't find you threatening. You're a toddler with a Westhoff. That's not a butcher knife. If you don't have the butcher knife, then it's clearly not very threatening. Just takes the knife out of his hand and just tosses him into the closet and says, "Damn kids," reprogramming this thing, and calls him a swine doll. Every time it's like he turns around, like, there's this thing again.
All right.
And I got to the point for the fight at the end, because there's always a fight in those films.
Yeah,
so I thought, wouldn't it be epic if Chucky turns around and Clouseau's there in one of his disguises when he's on his knees, and he says, now the levels are, no, the playing field is now leveled. And he's there on his knees and he's like does like the karate jump thing, and it's like and he goes right over the doll's head. It's like, how did he get that much air? It's like he was on his knees.
Yep.
And I think he ends up blowing him up with a bag of flour or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, explosion is key.
Explosion is key. Blows him out and into the wood chipper.
Here's my question. Chucky v. Kato.
Beat Kato?
Versus Kato.
Oh, versus Kato.
Or does Kato just show up and attack Clouseau all the time and never meets Chucky the whole time?
I just think it's good grounds. So.
All right, so there's some fun things you can do. What is the case Clouseau is on while Chucky is trying to murder him, and of course is murdering people constantly? Yeah.
Everyone else is dropping like flies, but he's like constantly dodging every little trap or whatever. It's like, oh, I just kill you effortlessly. It's like he's just like managing to just skirt by the seat of his pants and not have zero clue that he's like just got within a hair's breadth of being murdered like a dozen times that day.
Well, and who does Clouseau think the murderer is?
He doesn't know. He's like, but my suspects keep dying left and right, so I can't.
That's good. Yeah.
Need to find anything.
Is Chucky killing the suspects not just by accident, but because he wants people to know it's him?
I wouldn't put it past him. He's an ego-driven maniac, and near the end of these things, then he does it. Like the dramatic reveal, it was me the whole time. It's like, oh, for God's sakes! Damn it, plot armor. That's why I stopped watching that series. It's like after like the third time, I'm almost like, no, I'm not watching the Curse of Chucky or whatever, the one with the fake face. It's like, no, but I'm just not doing that anymore. It's like I'm not doing this
because his constant returns were bothering you?
Yes, it's okay. When they keep bringing back, the standard guys, Freddy and Jason. It's like, okay, you can believe that because they've kind of evolved into supernatural forces. So you can kind of believe that they can come back through some sort of technical loophole.
I would like with Freddy. Sure, what is he? You don't know. He's an outsider of some sort. He's in dreams. Okay, it's weird. Jason, it makes zero sense. And that's why we accept it. They never even tried to explain it.
But if they did, they would do illegal dumping of chemicals into the lake. Would be a basis for him being a zombie if they ever did. It would be a plausible thing, I would believe.
That would be more plausible than him being struck by lightning, though.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah. The struck by lightning after being dead for 8-10 years, okay, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is that you kind of expect it, because you want to see, like, what new, like, situations they get into now. Like with the other guy in the white mask. Mike Myers. It's like, okay, so how's this come back now? It's like, and then the new reboot's actually pretty good, except for that last film when they constantly keep trying to do the trailer line. It's like, you already said that like 5 times, guys. It's like, you gotta stop doing that.
There've been that's been a mixed bag, right? But yeah, I think that one of the nice things about Mike Myers is that you can just lean back on, oh, he's evil and hollow. Done.
Was the original name called the Shade? The Shape. The Shape. Because you never really saw him head on until like pretty much at the last third, because he actually shows him like actually doing stuff instead of like kind of like I'm behind a bush sort of.
Yeah. Well, it was also kind of a writer's statement within the text, because like he didn't have motivation. His motivation was to be in the background and then kill you. Right?
It's like, it's like what he targeted those 2 teenagers, Lori and the best friend, because he says, "Hey, dude, speed kills."
Right.
All right, target's right there.
Yep.
It's like, all right. Then they invented that later with the whole sister thing. They kind of said, well, he kind of did that more arbitrarily. Oh no, that was his sister, so it has to, therefore, it logically makes sense. It's like, I guess.
Well, then he was an embodiment of Samhain, served a cult to cleanse the lands.
I want to see the prequel of that, because they did a thing for the nun lady, and I thought that'd be so interesting, like Samurai Jack, where it was like a primordial evilness that then eventually evolved to take the shape of Haku.
Yep, no, that sounds good. But I think that's the point, right? So in Chucky, we have a very, very clear idea of what's up. He said a very specific spell with his body touching the effigy and put his soul into the effigy, right?
Yeah.
And so that does make him just coming back for no reason hard, which is why they have to come up with all these elaborate, ridiculous things. But I think that's also very specifically the fun of that series.
Plus, he's trying to at least ham it up.
No, it is, but also like the fun of the fun. Okay, so the reason Child's Play works is because we have movie series about slashers. So we accept this particular form of myth, right? And so the fun of Chucky is that, yeah, not only does it make no sense that he could kill anybody, right? It requires good fortune and his evil plan.
Oh yeah,
to murder anyone.
And these people, it's like that old joke where it says like, yeah, you can strangle them with a cordless phone. It's
Right.
like, oh no, it's like I died mysteriously, incredibly easily. It's like, for the love of God, this is just like, again, my problem is that they make it too goddamn easy for the murderers, and people are like, huh?
Sure. Well, but again, I think that is sort of the joke, right? With Chucky specifically, like in the first one, they were like, okay, you don't see him coming. That's how it works.
Yeah.
But that's gone the moment we're in 2 and 3, right?
2 and 3, and like literally almost anything afterwards, even to the new series that does trade it up a bit or mix it up a bit. It makes me almost want to turn that on, but then it's like, God damn it, he just murdered everybody in that audience.
Yeah.
And it's like, God dang it, can anybody just do one goddamn thing right? Just one damn thing. That's all I ask.
I think that the thing is the idea is, right? This is what you get. So there's the story of each movie, which we pretend are connected, but
They're not.
They're not. And they are later, of course. Once we get into the 90s and later, people try to connect them more directly. But then there is the connected mythology that goes through the movies, and that actually usually comes down to, and this is also my thing with Doctor Who, right? The Doctor being able to do all this stuff is stupid. He can't do all that. But we've seen him do it for 40, 50 years, so we accept it. And I think that's the same thing with Chucky. That's the point, is that we've all just decided, yeah, Chucky's good enough to do that. He's Batman, he's Spider-Man, he's the Doctor. He can pull that off because he's Chucky. Not for a reason, just because he's Chucky and he has been in this many stories. And of course he's been in that many stories because the guy behind Child's Play really wants to keep making Child's Play movies.
But we've never really seen the grosses go down on any of these franchises, have we? Like they said in Last Action Hero. And he says, well, you're still alive because the grosses haven't gone down.
Oh, sure. Actually, the grosses do go down on
something.
On almost all of them.
But not dramatically enough to say this franchise is no longer. Even do the
they just
I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
That goes into 8 films. And even Hellraiser has done like 8 sequels.
Yeah.
And still keeps on going because it's like, well, someone felt we still needed to. Like it was alive enough, just barely, to say, let's do one more. It's like, no.
So actually, it's different now than it used to be. Because now the reason you hold on to these properties is so that you can hold on to merchandising.
Yes.
You can hold on to comics and video games and board games and stuff, and cups and shirts. So Hellraiser as an idea, Pinhead and the Box are interesting enough, and the first 2 movies were good enough that people remember them. So all they have to do is make a super cheap, super bad movie every 5 years or so.
They keep the rights.
They keep the rights. And then,
there was a... Remember the Dick Tracy movie?
Mm-hmm.
The big, colorful one everyone seemed to hate? Again, it's like, I love that movie. I loved it. What's wrong with that?
When was the last time you saw it? I didn't hate it.
I saw it like last year. I watched it again. Anyway, they said that the guy, Tom Warren Beatty, he owns the rights, and so instead of losing the rights to the property, he made his own little short film where he was in character being interviewed. And it's like, sure, why not? Put that on the DVD. I'll watch it. I found there's a. Well, I guess we're kind of done here because we'll continue this conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm just out of memory for this.
Cool.
Okay. Bye.